Talbert, Industrial Organizational Psychology 516, midterm oral exam. Question number 1. How have recent historical events affected the course of research in organizational psychology? Give an example and the resulting outcome. So if we go back to the beginning, pretty much early times, you could look at an example as early as the Midianite priest Jethro advising his son-in-law Moses on how to staff and organize the Israelites. If that's the case, then the Bible is full of great examples of organizational psychology, especially Jesus and his work with the disciples. In a more modern approach, organizational psychology was truly established in the 20th century by people like Munsterberg, Scott, and Bingham. In the 1920s, the Hawthorne studies was a big influencer of modern organizational psychology. That's helped with the growth of unions, protecting the employees. In the 1940s and in the 1950s, World War II influenced the development of human relations. In the 1960s, during the Vietnam War, the APA recognized and labeled industrial and organizational psychology, making it an official part of psychology. And the 1980s to the 2000s, changes in the global economy and technology allowed for organizational psychology to influence the work and job understanding, making sure there was a differentiation there. Today, industrial and organizational psychology is focusing on the aging population and retirement. That has a lot to do with the baby boomers. Work safety and emergency preparedness, which has a lot to do with post 9/11, and job insecurity, which has a lot to do with the Great Recession and the recovery from that. Question number 2, describe the socialization process for graduate students in the program. Is the program successful? And is it successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness? Organizational socialization is the process where we are taking an individual from the outside and making them an organizational member. Basically, what this means is the recruit or new hire is integrated into the organization. To do this appropriately, the organization would ensure that the individual is familiarized and comfortable with the company's history, the language, the politics, the people, the organizational goals, the performance proficiency. At Liberty's graduate program, efforts are made from day one to socialize students into the system. When speaking with your academic advisor, they spend time discussing the history of the university's goals, the purpose of the program, the mission of the program, the foundation of what it's been built on. Once you're set up in the system, I know that there's emails and announcements that come in quite a bit. This is to discuss events coming up, opportunities, education that will better familiarize the student with the system and socialize them into it, get them comfortable with the setup of Blackboard and Assist, and also with doing introductory discussion boards on who you are. Get you integrated into the system as well and socialized. And then once you become a student and you're working on your degree, you are prompted with upcoming events and deadlines. There's progress information and ongoing events and announcements to ensure that you remain aware and engaged. So it's an ongoing system, and I am sure that on campus, the classes are being here on campus, that the socialization is far more expansive. I'm sure they have an orientation for the students, social events for them to get to know each other, get comfortable, and many events to kind of discuss what the university is all about, what they're expecting with the education and with the students on campus. It appears very successful here at Liberty. This is my second graduate degree with Liberty, so it must be working. Next question, how can organization reduce and prevent work-family conflict? Organizations can do a lot to help with and reduce work-family conflict. The goal for any good organization is to produce a balance with their employees. Um, that would start with the top of the organization, senior managers or senior management, owners. They would need to see a need for the balance. Research shows that there is a tremendous negative effect on the work environment when there is a poor work-family balance. So the organization needs to find ways to produce a good balance for the employees. So next, the supervisor and mid-level and managers, they need to buy into the process as well and understand the policies and for ensured success. If they do not support the initiatives such as flex scheduling or teleworking or things like of those types of changes to work with the employee, conflicts can arise. Um, Family programs must be in place that fit the organization and the employee, so both are succeeding and creating the balance that you're looking for. The opportunities for an organization to do this would be flex scheduling, like I said, which allows the employee to be home with the family during hours they could be together. Teleworking. Um, Teleworking gives the employee the option to work from home again, making their time with the family valuable, especially when they're have different schedules. Extended maternity leave for mothers and fathers. Education opportunities allow for growth with the employee. Child or elder care, giving the employee less to worry about. Exercise and healthcare options, making a healthier work environment for all the staff to benefit the company, become more productive, and produce a better environment, and pretty much maintain a strong balance of that family work relationship. Um, to do this and to make it effective, research has shown that anytime you have a good work-family balance, the conflict is minimalized and the work environment is more productive. Next question is, imagine you have been asked to develop a performance assessment program for employee development. What techniques could you use to adequately evaluate employee performance as comprehensively as possible? So to develop an effective performance assessment, first you would need a clear and understandable job description. At this point, one would look at the job performance dimensions. This would include what's called in-role performance. These are the tasks. These are the task-oriented behaviors that the employee would be expected to do, such as the major tasks of the job itself. If you used a nurse, that would be her clinical skills, the actual on-hand clinical skills or charting skills. These are the specific skills for that the employee can tangibly be judged on. Let's say the employee was a grant writer. Then you look at the proficiency of how well they write their grants. Are they able to understand the process? Can they fill out the paperwork appropriately? Are the grants submitted without error? Are they not kicked back because of errors? And then if the grants were received, were they well enough written to actually get the reward or the award for the grant itself? So you can measure them for the grant writing skills, the amount that they have submitted, and whether they have gotten a award off of it. The extra role performance, these are the interpersonal oriented behaviors, such as interpersonal transactions that occur on the job. Again, if you look at a nurse, this would be her people skills, her empathy, her compassion, her ability to work with a patient and the family. As your employee, you're looking at how they communicate, basically, how they relate, integrate with the other employees, with the work environment, the customer. You're looking to measure the employee on these behaviors, but you would have to have somebody actually observing these behaviors consistently to see that the employee is doing the job. So it's a little harder to do because you have to observe them doing it all the time. And then there's downtime behaviors. Behaviors outside of work is basically what they're talking about. These are behaviors that affect job performance, such as additional jobs that they may have, use of drugs or alcohol, And again, if you use a nurse, many nurses who work full time, they may have part time or PRN jobs of similar types of positions, and that can put a lot of stress on the full time job because they're missing work, showing up tired or such. Um, if they're working too many hours on a night shift, and they could be also risking, um, be a significant risk at work, showing up to their full time job. So this would be true if somebody also engaged in risk behaviors such as drinking or drugs, that these things can overflow into the work environment. And then there's destructive or hazardous behaviors, and these are behaviors that involve safety violations, sabotage, accidents. Again, if the nurse is not following sterile procedures, placing themselves, the patients, or other employees at risk for not doing things that would keep everybody safe. So these behaviors are pretty easy to measure, being that the employee would be observed taking risks or engaging in these things in repeated violations. So to actually assess that employee, you would be able to see these behaviors and the violations of these behaviors. Next question, what are some possible common organizational constraints? How could they lead to counterproductive behaviors? So business constraints are the forces that every business must contend with to execute their strategy. The 10 most common listed by business journals all over are time, assets, liquid assets, resources, quality, knowledge, regulatory compliance, interest of stakeholders, organizational culture, and risk tolerance. So each and every employee is either subject to or part of the creator of these constraints. If time's a constraint because one employee is making up for productivity for another employee's counterproductive behavior, then that's a constraint and it moves into the organizational level. If resources are not available to an employee to do his job effectively, the chances they become frustrated or even work against the process, which is kind of a low-level sabotage, can be counterproductive behavior. Assets such as cash or intangibles that the employee needs to function or do its job is a constraint on the organization, and it can lead to the employee being counterproductive again in such behaviors as sabotage or withdrawal, where they shut down and don't do their job as well or don't communicate as well. Of all these examples, organizational culture can be a significant role player in counterproductive work and work behavior. Resistance to change is a common problem in organizations and in the culture. These types of employees who don't want to change, they can lead to additional negative behavioral problems such as abuse, withdrawal, sabotage to the system, absenteeism, and workplace incivility, to where it actually gets kind of nasty. These examples can be situations based or they can be person based in origin. Either way, the counterproductive work behavior is a harmful process to people and the organization alike. Possibilities of abuse, there's theft, aggressive behaviors. They're just a few of the ways that you can see this manifest inside the organization when there are constraints weighing on the system itself, and it can eventually destroy the company. And that's it. Thank you.